Gentlemen, we are live. It's always exciting when we open the virtual doors to these virtual previews and watch folks begin to file in. So it's very exciting to do that. And we'll give it a few minutes while folks begin to line up here to discuss the Paramount Collection. It's good to see you, Chris, and good to see you, Sam, as well. So, Chris, folks are beginning to file in. As always, you seem to draw a crowd. I'm sure it's just because of your remarkable personality, and of course, the fact that you have brought one of the most remarkable collections of world and ancient coins to Heritage Auctions. And obviously, this is for the Paramount Collection, which begins. That's Thursday, the 25th at 4 p.m. is when the first floor session begins, and we'll look at the page in just a moment. But Chris, I did want to ask you before we begin. This is something I remember getting an email from you. I believe it was Christmas Eve. It was certainly around Christmas that you said the Paramount Collection had arrived at Heritage, and that you were incredibly excited, like a kid opening I don't know, countless presents on Christmas morning. So, talk to me a little bit about what makes the Paramount Collection so special to begin with.
Well, thanks again, Robert, for having us, for joining us once again. And thanks for the introduction there. I sure hope that my wife, Susan, is listening to those compliments. But anyways, the Paramount Collection, absolutely, Robert. When we first started working on this collection, I guess it would have been October, last October. And when we first received the list of the items in the collection, it was something hard to believe. Actually, when we were reading and just going through the list of coins and the fantastic rarities that were in this collection. So, we worked for a couple of months getting everything ready to the arrival of the collection here in our headquarters in Dallas. And our VP of logistics, Ron Brackemeyer, worked his Christmas miracle, and the collection was actually scheduled to arrive here on the 27th, but he was able to work his magic, and then we opened Heritage, just the two of us, our big building here by DFW Airport, and the armored truck pulled in our loading dock and unloaded 3 bags, and then I spent that Christmas Eve morning between 8 until about 1 o'clock, when I figured, like, if I don't go home, I'm going to start getting myself into trouble. But it was just a wonderful few hours of opening up these boxes and looking at these coins that just fresh arriving from NGC. Just amazing group of coins, and so many that we're going to see right now. And then from that moment, our work started, and the wonderful World and Ancient Coin team here at Heritage worked basically almost exclusively. Obviously, we have all these other venues that take place, weekly auctions and other venues, but basically our team worked almost exclusively on the Paramount Collection since that day, December 24th, until yesterday, when the catalog finally arrived at our desks. And now it's time for us to enjoy the auction, enjoy talking to our friends and our colleagues and our collectors, and talking about the lots and being here with you. Our work is mostly done as it refers to the auction itself, but now it's the excitement of the auction process that will complete on the 25th through the 27th is really exciting for us. It's a really exciting moment for all of us.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Normally in the last few months, we've been doing state of the market commentaries. Chris and Sam have joined us for the state of the world and ancient coin market discussions, and those have been incredibly popular as well. When we began these Zoom discussions to do virtual previews, because obviously everybody can't be in the same place at the same moment, especially these days. We've gone back to the preview format just for this Paramount Collection because, as Chris said, this is something incredibly special. And Chris and Sam are going to walk us through some of the highlights from this auction. But if you have a question about anything in this auction or anything about the world and ancient coins, feel free to drop us a question in the Q&A If you have questions about other lots, Sam and Chris actually have the coins there with them today. So we'll discuss anything that you would look at that. That is, that's what, about $75 worth of coins, right, Sam?
Give or take.
Yeah. So we'll get to those questions as you have them. Feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to get to them. If you have a question about any particular lot in this particular auction, feel free to drop it there. But again, as we said, 4 p.m. Central on Thursday the 25th, then again at 4 p.m. Central on Friday the 26th, and at 1 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, March 27th. As again, you can go see the featured items, the most popular. But Sam and Chris have pulled some lots, and I'm just here to steer the ship. So Sam and Chris, I'll let you guys tell me what you want to look at, and we'll get to it.
Okay, so I believe the first coin I picked, and again, I'm here with Sam, the master of ancient coins, and I picked an ancient coin. I know very little about ancients, but this coin, which is not particularly rare. I think the current bid is of this moment, it's probably around $1,500, $2,000.
$1,800.
1,800, there you go. But I just found it to be absolutely stunning when I saw it, and just the portrait there, just the entire, the muscles and the details of the cloth and the scepter, and you can see original beautiful toning on the reverse, especially this blue and red toning. I just found this coin to be exceptional, and I do believe it's going to bring a nice premium over our estimate. I believe our estimate is around that 1,500, 2,000. I believe it's going to command a nice premium just because it's a near, in my opinion, at least, NGC called it a Choice AU Star, Strike 5, Surface 5. So they liked it as well, and I just found it stunning for an ancient coin to have these colors and these details. Very special.
Chris, where does this coin come from? I'm just a little history on it, if you don't mind.
Sicilia, right?
Cilicia.
Sicily. Okay, I'll let Sam answer like the technical details. Otherwise, I'm gonna, embarrass myself.
Yeah,
Sam.
There's a few other comments that I'll make on this particular coin that I think is worth drawing attention to. So first, Chris mentioned what the grade was that NGC gave it. It was a Choice AU Star, Strike 5 out of 5, Surface 5 out of 5, and Die Shift. So they added that notation of die shift, which if you go to the other side of the coin, the reverse on this one, Robert, you can only really see the die shift on the plumes of the helmet, where there's sort of a shadowing behind the actual design. So this is a figure of Ares, or at least who we think might be Ares. And in hand, Chris has it with him right now. It's barely noticeable in my mind. I think you really have to look for it to really notice the die shift. And they gave it a grade of 5 out of 5 for strike. Typically, when they give a notation of die shift, when NGC does, they would at least get 1 point knocked off the strike grade, which I think suggests just how minor it is. So all that is to say that NGC was being very thorough when they gave it this grade in my mind, because they still gave it full marks on strike and surface, but still gave the notation a die shift, which again doesn't really detract from the coin in my opinion. The other thing I'll say about this is that it's struck on a large metallic flan, which I make no secret of is something I really love. And it's actually the scarcer type of Pharnabazus stators. So if you go back to the lot page, Robert, just X out of the images here, and if you scroll down to the previous prices grid, you'll see that all the other Pharnabazus stators that we've sold recently are the more common type with the facing female head on the obverse rather than the seated image of Balters. So it's true that this coin isn't necessarily rare, especially by comparison to a lot of the other coins in the Paramount collection, but nonetheless, it is the scarcer Pharnabazus type.
Exactly what I was going to say, Robert.
Chris, I knew it. I just knew that it would take you a moment to find the words, and that's why I always appreciate when Sam is sitting next to you and he can walk us through these particular nuances of a particular coin.
That's right. He's slightly more articulate than I am, but you have to give him a chance. He's younger, so
he's more nimble, more agile.
That's right. What's our next highlight here before we start getting, because we're really here to address questions and address lots that anybody who is watching is interested in us to pulling live and commenting on. So there's Sam with his Deca. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is one that unmuted, that would help. This is one that I was really excited about sharing and seeing in person, because it's a triple signed decadram by the master engraver Kimon. So just like an artist today or artists for centuries have signed their work, just a little signature in the corner usually with their name, it was a tradition that goes back to ancient Greece, where you'd have master potters, or in this case, coin engravers, sign the dies with their name. And this particular die must have been something that the engraver Kimon was particularly proud of, because he signed it in 3 different places. So you're showing the first one there, which is the K on the headband of Arethusa on the reverse, which is just a simple initial, and you might not think much of it if you didn't really know the context of it. Then on that dolphin right below the bust of Arethusa, you see it much more clearly, Kimon, Kimon, to put it in English. So that's where you can see the name most clearly on the coin, but then much more subtly, and this, it took me a few minutes to figure this out as well, is the name on the exergal line on the obverse. So on the left side of this line, if you scroll a little bit to the left, you can actually make out, right there, you can make out Kimon on that line right there. Yeah, and because of the limitations of the photography, you can't really make out the letters so clearly, but that's just because it's struck in such high relief. And I have the coin here, which it's much easier to see in hand. It's struck at kind of an angle there. So you have to look at it from an angle to see the Kimon much more clearly. So all that is to say, it's a really exciting coin to handle. Over the last 20 years or so at auction, there have been a number of very nice Syracuse decadrams that have come up, not just in our auctions, but around the market. And in pure aesthetic sense, there are some that are probably nicer than this. But when you narrow it down to just the signed decadrams, I think this rivals the best of them. This is as good as it gets. The other thing I want to mention about this, you saw me just hold up the coin. You'll notice that it's not in an NGC holder, which is because simply how large it is and the fact that it's on an oblong flan. NGC didn't have a gasket to put it in without it popping out. So they gave it a photo certificate instead, rather than put it in a holder and risk it popping out and rattling around inside of it. But the coin itself is very nice and has very good metal integrity. There's no risk of it chipping or anything like that. So that's one thing that I wanted to comment on, which oftentimes ancient coin collectors are very conscious of.
Does the Kimon, how much does that signature, does the fact that we know who designed this, who is responsible for it, does that impact its desirability and its collectability and its value?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are a few different types of Syracuse decadrams. You have those signed by Euenetos, those in the style of Euenetos, those signed by Kimon, et cetera, et cetera. In general, given the choice between a signed decadram and an unsigned one in the same condition, 9 times out of 10 collectors are going to choose the signed one, just because that is historically more collectible and more interesting. And offhand, I couldn't tell you surviving populations on, how much rarer this type is versus that type. But I can certainly speak to the collectability of it, and can assure you that collectors much prefer the signed types than the unsigned ones.
And here we have a signed one that we sold in 2015 for $70,500. This has already exceeded that estimate.
Yes, this one will exceed that one by quite a fair margin. It's at 75,000 right now, but for anyone considering bidding on this, I would say that I think you're going to need to be willing to go a fair bit higher than that to have a good shot to win it.
Chris, did you want to weigh in on this particular coin before we move on?
No, other than it's just a fantastic, extra popular, very iconic coin, highly desirable, and this is a beautiful specimen. So if you're looking for a Deca, there it is.
Excellent. Let's move on to this coin, because I know that this is from Italy, and I know
Yes.
This is from 1704, I believe.
Correct. So this is just let's show the reverse, the other side of this coin, because I think it's really special. I just completely love. When I pulled this coin out of the box, I was just stunned by it. I'd never seen it. I never even seen it in an image in a catalog anywhere. It's an Osella. It has a denomination of 5 zecchini, which was the sort of the standard weight for gold coins in Italy. But it just has this gorgeous reverse of this beautiful large flower growing on these thorny bushes with this beautiful starry night with the moon, right? It's sort of an unusual design with like all these stars. I mean, it's a very very pretty, very unique, very different.
It's a bit
from
of a
what we see.
design.
Say that again.
It's a bit of a storybook design. It's a really
Got it. Yeah, it's like, yeah. You could see yourself walking around and seeing this sort of scene, and it's just unusual for coins, right? I mean, just think about it. Coins are usually a political medium, oftentimes, right? Your bust looking very pretty, the shields of the empire, or and here you have a Venetian designer, very romantic, it's obviously Venice, and that does this sort of very romantic, very pretty, beautiful sky with the flower. So I love this coin. I really have no idea how much it's worth. It's graded MS62, which obviously very unusual for an early 18th century Italian coin. It's about 17 and a half grams. It's got a slightly thin flan, but it's got a nice, if I would guess, I don't have a ruler right now with me, but I would guess probably 34 millimeters of diameter. And just a very, very pretty coin.
Chris, I'm curious.
I love it.
You said this is a coin that you had not seen before. Is that something that occurs often? I mean, I assume, given the amount of coins that come through Heritage and your long history in collecting and auctioning coins, that can't be a thing that happens too often.
I mean, it still happens. Heritage, there's a tremendous a volume of coins that we handle, so it does happen, but it's rare. The coins that we handle normally, the vast majority, I would say 95% or more of them I have seen before, and multiples of them. In this collection, it was quite to the contrary. I mean, there were dozens, if not, there might have been over 100 coins in this collection that I'd never seen before, not even an image. Okay, obviously, if I could go back and look at catalogs and browse catalogs from the past, and I would see that there might have been one there, but everything pretty much is new to us, and it's going to be new to a lot of our clients too. So this is something that struck me as different and beautiful, and it's going to end up in someone collection, and they're going to love it as much as I do.
So see, I think that's an interesting discussion to have, because we've done all these state of the market discussions, and many of them we discuss coins that have traded before or variations of coins that have traded before. Here,
Correct.
when coins come up for the first time, when you say we don't really know what it's worth, I'm just sort of curious what your expectations are and how you discuss that with folks who have never seen it before, and how, and look, our advice to folks always is buy what you love. This is an extraordinarily beautiful coin. If you collect coins, certainly coins that are several hundred years old from Italy or from anywhere else, this is certainly a coin that you could easily fall in love with. That's really the I assume the way one would approach this particular coin. It's something to love, not necessarily something that you would buy going, well, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I know that this coin will sell for X amount, because simply you hadn't seen it and we don't know the value of it.
Yeah, when we say I don't know the value, we do have an idea,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's more of there's certain coins are more commoditized than others. Okay, so the more you sell a coin, take a Morgan dollar or a $20 gold piece of the US, or even a British sovereign, or a French 100 francs that is common, those things we know the value exactly. Like if you show up with one to me, I'll say this is worth $2,200, and it might be 21 or 23, very little variation. The rarer you get on the spectrum, the more subjective value becomes, obviously, because you don't have a track record, right? What we do have is sort of comparative. We do a lot of, we compare equivalent rarity with each other. So if there's a coin that's 1 known or 5 known, or is this size of this denomination, and it's sold for 50,000 or 1,500, we sort of use that as a guide for, deciding on what the estimate would be or what the value might be. Okay, here specifically, as you browsing the sale online, you will see that this sale specifically, we do have estimates for the coins. Okay, and this was based obviously on very diligent and research. So there you go. This is estimated at 20 to 30,000. It's based on research that was done diligently by our numismatists and catalogers. And obviously, as people know us, we're conservative with our estimates. We tend to be conservative. So some of the coins that people will see now on Paramount, they're already over our estimates. We expect tremendous demand for this, for the lots and for the items in this collection. The group is really sort of a once in a generation opportunity for a lot of these coins. Everybody's excited about it, talking about it. I'm getting, Sam and I and the team, we're getting lots and lots of inquiries and questions and requests for more information on the lot. So we're very excited and have great expectations for the results. But we like to decide, like we like to follow the lead on US coins, on the leader of numismatics in this company, to say that they start everything that they do at $1, right? With no estimates. And really the market, and I think this is really beautiful, because this is how the free market works. Like everybody who's here in our audience and our demographic, they decide, right? They decide what they want to bid. We provide as much guidance and as much information as we can for them to make a decision, but it's really ultimately up to them. And people who will be participating in this auction obviously are not going to be, this is a mid to advanced level, of collecting, obviously.
But I just wonder, we've certainly, as we just looked down here a moment ago, and again, We look down here, we can see the population guide, the previous prices, and so forth. When we look here, this one has no population. There's simply one in the NGC population. There is no previous sales upon which to base this. Are there a number of coins in the Paramount collection about which you can say this is one of one in the NGC pop guide? This is one that we have not sold. You said there were many of them. I assume that, do you know offhand how many of them qualify for that?
I don't know offhand, but there's going to be several.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't that necessarily, I mean, it obviously has important meaning, right? That this is the only one at NGC. But again, we're still quite infant on that process of grading world coins. But and it's best to see in the descriptions from the research that our numismatists have done, because they might have some information on how many exists on some, for this particular type, I'm not sure, but you will see throughout the Paramount collection unique items, one of a few, one of two, one of five known. I would guess that more than 100 coins will be the only one graded at both grading services. It's just a tremendous, it was very difficult for us to, do things like pick highlights of the auction, because there's so many interesting coins. So
excellent.
Yeah, on that point, I would actually want to point out, you had the word unlisted highlighted just a moment ago, Robert, and that's something that I think is really worth emphasizing for this particular coin. We're talking about rarity a lot. So when we say this coin is unlisted, it means it's unlisted not just in the general Friedberg reference gold coins of the world and the classic Italian reference Corpus Numorum Italicorum, CNI, but it's also unlisted in Paolucci's book specifically on the coinage of Venice. The Venetian series is, relative to a lot of other areas, very well documented. So to have an oscilla like this that is just totally unlisted, I think that's quite something.
So it's the denomination is something that we haven't, that it's not listed. So they might have seen this coin in smaller sizes, but in this size of 5 zucchini, which each zucchini I guess is 3.5 grams. So this puts it at 17.5 grams. So it's unique and unlisted, and maybe the only one known in this denomination, which is the case for several of these coins. So you might have, the Germans would use, for example, the same design for a 4 ducat and the same design for a 10 ducat. Okay, one is 2.5 times the size of the other, but the design is the same, and it might be somewhat known in a smaller denomination, but then in the higher denominations, they become increasingly rare. And there's many of these in this collection. This is the case. Obviously, the Paramount collector, liked large special gold coins, trophies. So, and this is certainly one of them, and we're going to be talking about a few others. What do we have next?
And again, gentlemen, I appreciate you indulging my questions. And if you have a question, drop them in the Q&A. There is a question waiting for us in a moment. But look, I came to Heritage knowing very well about comic books and sports cards and movie posters. I can't say that my knowledge about World and Nation coins was estimable a year ago. So I always appreciate the education that you provide me and everybody who's watching these particular discussions. Let's go to New Zealand now, Sam, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting one from the Paramount collection that I wanted to highlight, because often what we've included in our marketing materials are the big, British or German multiple ducats, or the French the patterns and all that sorts of stuff like that. But this is a great coin to illustrate the real breadth of the Paramount collection and showcase one of the 20th century rarities in the collection. So the Watangi Crown is a great type commemorating the Treaty of Watangi between the British Crown and the Maori chiefs. And it's often considered one of the great world type coins, alongside the, say, 1847 Gothic crown of Victoria. It's just, if you're putting together a world type collection, you need a Watangi Crown. What's special about this lot is that it's a pattern that has not appeared at auction in at least 20 years. So if you go to the next tab that you have open there, what you'll see here is the normal Watangi issue. And there's a few key differences between the pattern and this one. Notably, the crown in the background is much smaller on the pattern. The staff is shorter on the pattern. The legend on the reverse is a little different. So if you go back to the one in the Paramount Collection now, you can see definitely some differences there. So this is an extremely rare coin, and when it comes to New Zealand numismatics, this is basically as good as it gets. So honestly, I was doing some research yesterday when I was pulling some lots to talk about today and realized that this lot at its current bid of 23,000 right now has already set a world record for most expensive New Zealand coin to ever appear at auction. So if you want to focus on New Zealand numismatics or just world type coins, this is pretty much as good as you could possibly hope to get in terms of, you know, the pinnacle of New Zealand coins. So the last thing I wanted to point out about this actually is it's a good illustration of something that we chose to do with the Paramount Collection, which is include both our images and the NGC PhotoVision images. So if you can go to the second set of images there, yeah, perfect. You'll see that due to the different style of photography between what we do and what NGC does, and the fact that NGC photographs the coin outside of the holder, it's a totally different effect with the lighting and the angle of the camera and all of this. The coin itself is absolutely the same. We just light it and angle it a little differently, which we're forced to do because of the fact that it's in the plastic. So in order to present our clients with the most accurate and complete information possible, we actually have 3 sets of images for every coin in the Paramount Collection. We have our own high quality images, the NGC PhotoVision images, and then these one sort of what we call scanned images. It's a one size fit all of the coin in the slab, so you can see what it looks like there. And that should give you a more complete view of what the coin actually looks like in hand if you're not able to view it in person.
Excellent. Would you like to now travel to Germany? 1611 Germany, I believe.
Yes, let's do this, and then let's do 30099, which is a question that we got from David Kenny. And I'll address his
David wants to discuss 30099, so we'll do that.
Yes.
In just a moment.
So this coin that we have on the screen, this was one that when I pulled out of the box, I spent quite a bit of time with. Okay, so it's a 10 ducat of Saxony, which is a very large, important German state, and it's over 400 years old. It's from 1611. A 10 ducat, again, each ducat is about 3.5 grams of gross weight. So a 10 ducat will put this coin at 35 grams. So it's slightly over an ounce of gold. And here's a coin from Saxony of this size of 1611 that is in FDC condition. Okay, it's a mint state 65 star as designated by NGC. And you know, if you look at this bust, Robert, I mean, can you really get a better hairdo than that? I mean, just look at that hair.
Well, you're
how
asking
beautiful it is.
You're asking.
I mean, it's fantastic. Well, but you can always, I mean, you can dream, right? I mean, you can dream to have this sort of hair, this wavy hair that's flowing through the air there for all his citizens to see. And then obviously his armored. I mean, he's armored with his sword and ready to defend his people. And you know, it's just, if you look at the details again, you're browsing through the coins, through the coin and the fields there. If you see like the elbow pad there, it's fantastic. You know, the details of of the helmet that's just sitting there to the right as you scroll out. And if you zoom out a little bit, let's see here. The he's holding his sword ready. He's just sort of waiting there. You can see him sort of waiting to go to battle. And I found this coin to be absolutely stunning. It has original luster, which is incredible for a coin that's 400 years old plus. And I have it here in my hand, and it's sort of the coin that you can't get enough of. It's just, you want to look at it and you want to see all the details. You want to spend time with it. You want to study it, and you find new things every time you see it. So I love this coin. So and let's go quickly to 30099.
Sure.
Okay, so this is a coin that has a very fragile planchet. This is why this coin is not in an NGC holder. And you can see probably there in the image, that dark spot there is actually a hole. There's a significant crack on the flan there that starts there and rolls all the way down on the coin. And it's very fragile. So we don't want to handle this coin as much. Like, we don't want to put it in a holder. It's very fragile. And obviously it might have been, put back together and tooled. It isn't an incredibly rare coin. And again, if you go back to the description there for a sec.
And the reason, let me just say, the reason we're discussing this is because David asks in the Q&A, how does the described damage affect the value of this particular lot? It seems a high estimate for something with this much of a problem. So that's why we're calling this one up and discussing this one.
Correct. So it's metallic issue, very early 1531, very early. And again, there's you can see all the description there. Obviously, there won't be any others certified. And the estimate, again, that's what our researchers and our numismatists figure with their research they would put in there. But again, if you take a look at the current bid, it's 3,100. So every lot in the Paramount collection started at $1. So the collectors can be comfortable to decide what they want to bid. I think most people are going to be surprised at what these coins are going to bring after the auction is completed. But here's an item that is extremely rare. Maybe it's one or two or three very few known, right? And maybe this is the best that you can get, really. But yeah, there's significant damage. It's properly described and photographed, and you can see the issues there. So, and I hope that answered the question. If it doesn't, they can submit further inquiries to us.
While we're on that subject, Chris and Sam, if you guys would both give your email addresses for folks who do have questions. I have found sometimes in these previews, folks don't necessarily feel comfortable asking questions about coins they're interested in to a large group of folks. They may want to directly reach out to you.
Yeah, so my email is chris@ha.com, no H, CRIS@ha.com.
Yeah, and mine is SAMS, SAMS@ha.com. And while we're on the topic of this particular coin, one thing I'd point out that we mentioned in the description, since the question relates to our estimate, is you can't get another one of these. The only other record that we could find comes from a 1910 auction, which is interestingly also noted as cracked in that catalog, and we note that in the description. Though it's unplated, so we can't definitively say that this coin is the same one that was in that 1910 auction without seeing an image of it. But it does strongly suggest that it might be, since there are no other records of one of these ever having been sold. All that is to say, you're not going to have a chance to get another one of these if you want this particular metal.
You had another one pulled up that we were going to discuss as well, and I thought this one was very interesting for a very particular reason that you wanted to discuss this Saxony 1627 German coin.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I wanted to bring up, and I brought it out here to have it in hand while we do it. And the reason I wanted to bring this up was not just because it's a big, impressive gold coin, but because of that graffiti that you have right there. So there are a number of coins in the Paramount collection that have graffiti noted on them. And typically when I'm looking at coins, I have a habit of just automatically discounting coins that are in a details graded holder. And that is a little unfortunate because I think I might discount certain things that otherwise might appeal to people that you can't get otherwise. And so I think it's worth looking, especially for something like this, looking at what exactly the graffiti is. So what you see there is XVIII, and if you remember your Roman numerals, that means 18 in Latin, in Roman numerals. So the reason for that is that this is an 18 ducat weight, but while there's certain issues of multiple ducats and multiple thalers where the size was noted on the coin, it was maybe punched into the coin afterwards. On some of these, especially these earlier ones, they didn't put the denomination anywhere in the design of the coin. So if you're out in commerce and you want to actually spend this and you don't have a set of scales at hand, and yeah, there it is again, another scratch of XVIII. So you need to remember, is this 18 ducats or is it 16 ducats or 20 ducats or 19 or whatever it might be, because, especially because 18 is a bit of an odd number to have it for weight wise. So what people actually did contemporaneously was scratch into the coin itself what the denomination was. So in this case, 18, there's other ones where you might see a 5 scratched into it for a 5 ducat or an 8 for an 8 ducat or so on and so forth. There's over a dozen of the coins in the Paramount collection that have this sort of graffiti on it. And so when you're looking at it in that context, I don't think you should really discount it like you might, you know, a harshly clean details coin or a tooled or ex jewelry or something like that, because this is contemporaneous to the coin being circulated. And I would put it personally on par with any 62 or 63 example of the coin. The fact that it has some scratches on it in this sense doesn't detract at all from it for me.
See, it's interesting that you mentioned that it might detract from it. I would think that that would accentuate it or add to its value because it is, as you say, contemporaneous with the time in which the coin was used. I mean, this is simply further proof of further connection to that moment in which this coin was minted and coin was used.
And that's why you join us often, Robert, so you can learn a little bit more about coins. To say that any disturbance to a field of a coin is undesirable. Okay, so if we had the choice, we would not want to have that 18 scratched it on there, sure, that coin. But it's a very common, as Sam said, a very commonplace procedure that was done at the time, particularly with these odd denominations. As we said before, you would have an 8, a 10, and a 12 ducat, and they pretty much look the same. I mean, there might be slightly thicker, but you know, if you have it in hand, you wouldn't be able to tell necessarily the difference. So this was a common occurrence. And again, an 18 ducat is a very, very unusual size for a coin. We're talking about a coin that's almost 2 ounces, a coin that is this old and has almost 2 ounces. So it's very, very unusual. It's very unusual to see actually anything that is any denomination that is greater than a 4 ducat. Up to a 4 ducat, 1, 2, and 4, you see somewhat commonplace. Once we start going over 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 18, 25, you know, as there are dozens and dozens of these multiple ducats in Paramount, and it's just sort of one beautiful coin after another. You can see in the German states, under Austria, under Hungary. So
yeah,
what do we have next?
You're right, Chris. That completely is what fascinates me about this, because I know certainly it's about appearance, certainly it's about tone, it's about all these other factors we use. But as someone who loves history, as someone who, I look at these scratchings, this graffiti, as it were, and I imagine the moment in which somebody wrote it, carved it in there, and to me that just sort of gives it an extra bit of life and character that perhaps coin, isn't necessarily popular in the world of in the realm of coin collecting, but nevertheless is the thing that I find just sort of gives us an extra layer of character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this in a coin like this, it does, as Sam said, it's certainly not as disturbing to any of us as if it was somebody just had scratched random scratches. I mean, this has meaning. I mean, there's a purpose to this. And properly described, it's fine. Again, what collectors look like, and I think this is common in most collectible fields, is originality, right? Is the item as close as it was when it was made, and the closer that's true, okay, the more value it tends to have, the item tends to have, all the things being equal. So things wanted, collectors want things as original as possible. Like car collectors, they want all the original parts, right? Comic book collectors, they don't want any restoration. They want all the pages to be as wide as possible. Right. The car is the same thing. You want it to be center. You don't want the corners to be round. You want them to be, at a perfect 90-degree angle. So like all these things. Right. So it's common, and this is common for coins. You want the coin to be as close as possible, as exactly as when it was made.
Right.
And obviously for coins, for coins of this size from, the 16th century or the 17th century, that's much more difficult to happen, obviously. So
we have looked at all the coins that you guys wanted to discuss, and obviously we have a couple more minutes here. If there are folks who want to ask questions about any particular coins, feel free to do that now. Again, yes. I have discovered one difference between our preview discussions and our state of the market discussions is that folks kind of hold their cards close to their vest when it comes to particular items in specific auctions, because they may have an interest and don't want to tip their hand necessarily. So you may want to email sams@ha.com or cris@ha.com if you have specific questions. One question that I did want to ask before we wrapped up is, since we are introducing a number of incredibly rare and perhaps in many cases unseen and unvalued coins until now, and in many cases this auction will set the market for any number of these coins, what do you think that the Paramount Collection's impact on the world and ancient coin market will ultimately be?
I can address that if you want. So,
Chris, if you don't mind muting yourself. Thanks.
All right, thanks. So I'll put it in this context. When we produced this catalog, we went to our marketing department and we had several meetings with them about it and how we designed it and all this. And the marching orders that we gave them were that we wanted a catalog that was going to stand out on the shelf from all other catalogs, because this is the sort of thing that's going to stay on the shelf for a generation or more. It's going to go up there alongside Eliasberg or Norweb or Garrett or any of these other major collections that have been sold in the last 40 years or so. So what this is going to become is a standard reference now that people are going to compare their collections to, or when future collections come onto the market, it's going to be compared to that. I can assure you the next time we get a major collection of multiple ducats, the first place we're going to look is the Paramount Collection and see, were these coins in Paramount? You know, did the Paramount collector have the same or similar coins? That sort of thing. And it's a once in a generation opportunity to handle a collection like this, because it's not just a function of the means to acquire the coins, but a function of the opportunity. So it's not just, you can have all the money in the world to spend on coins, but if they're not available for sale, if collectors who have them in their collections don't want to sell them at that time, you can't get them. So this collector had the means to acquire the coins and the connections and wherewithal in the market to be looking at all the major and minor auctions and dealer inventories around the world. And so it's definitely going to have an impact in the market in terms of how people weigh their collections or evaluate their collections. In addition to bringing a lot of new collectors into the market, we've heard from a number of major collectors from other fields, from US coins or comics or sports, wherever it might be, who they've taken notice of this collection. And I expect them to join in, and hopefully some of them stick around and become major world coin collectors going forward.
Joseph asks a question and says, "Thank you for this discussion. I'm a novice collector interested in ancient coins, unlikely to purchase anything at the level of these estimates." Certainly here we're looking at the cover lot here, which is a $650,000 bid at the moment. "I enjoy seeing these top of the line examples. It would be nice if Heritage had something perhaps to address entry level coins that would help people like me feel more comfortable bidding. I assume that there are entry-level coins here as well. We have seen some estimates. Here's an estimate that's here's a bid that's currently at 1,800 for a coin from 1926. This is, I believe, from Guatemala. There are any number of coins, and in fact, if one chooses to browse the collection, you can do it by lowest bid and actually see where you might actually be able to enter this particular discussion.
And something else, let me remind everybody that we have coins for every level of collecting. From collectors who buy things in the few hundreds through $100, or all the way up to over $1 million, like this 1937 Edward VIII 5-pound is going to realize. Perhaps not in this particular auction, but we have weekly auctions going on every week that we have, over 200 ancients that range from $100 to a few thousand. We have monthly auctions, we have other venues, and we have coins in all price ranges. The only sort of coins that we don't have are things under like $100. Those we don't. So we start at essentially at 100, 150 per, and it goes up from there. But we have lots and lots of opportunities for novice collectors every week. With our auction has closings on Wednesday night. So tonight will be all the ancient coins, and then tomorrow night is all the world coins. So every Wednesday night, ancients, every Thursday night, world coins closing. And there's always little Easter eggs there to be found, things that are special coins that are in there. I love it. It's one of my favorite venues, and especially if you're starting, it's a great place to go.
And hey, here's something in the Paramount Collection from 500 BC that currently is at 360. I can't imagine owning something that old for that relatively little amount of money.
You're welcome to, if you have a Heritage account, Robert, please place a bid right now if you'd like.
I do have a Heritage account. Well, thank you.
So yeah, again, we just shipped I believe about 4,000, a little over 4,000 catalogs over this weekend. Okay, so we worked extra overtime on Saturday shipping these catalogs all over the world. They should be arriving at people's houses today, tomorrow. If they're in other countries, it might take another day or two. And the auction in the open, we just opened for bidding very recently, and but so far, I believe there's already been about 6,000 bids. We're talking about 700 lots, so that's unusual. It's an unusual volume this early in the game, and obviously we're seeing tremendous interest across the board. It's very exciting. We're looking forward to the next couple of weeks. And on the 25th and 26th, two special format, Platinum Night format events And then the following day, we have his collection of modern gold coins, about 200 modern gold coins following the on the following day. And I think, Robert, if you allow me, just before we finish, let everybody know that we do have an auction coming up May 5th and 6th also, that we're getting close to consignment deadlines. If anybody has coins that they would like to send us, they can rush if we need to have them by this Friday. If not, we're going to be starting right after that, producing the A&A catalog, which we're hopeful that we'll be able to attend in person. We really don't know, obviously, at this time, but we're hopeful that by August, we'll be able to attend this in person. And we're going to be starting working on that catalog next. And we already have a couple of very interesting collections there. So we never stop over here in World at Agents, but we are ready to answer now at any time, any questions that anyone may have about the Paramount Collection. We don't want anybody to miss any opportunities in this sale and have, the biggest regret collectors have is not buying something, right? I mean, we regret not buying much more than we regret buying something. Because if you buy something, you can always sell it, right? But if you don't, it's very hard to buy it after the fact. So don't miss this opportunity. It's a fantastic, unique group of coins. And we wish everybody good luck.
And I really do appreciate everybody sticking around. I know there haven't been a ton of questions, as I said before, in these previews, especially for something as significant as Paramount. Many folks don't like to tip their hands. So Sam S at ha.com and CRIS, Chris at ha.com. The Paramount Collection begins at 4 p.m. Central on Thursday, 4 p.m. Central on Friday, and again at 1 p.m. Central on Saturday. March 25th, March 26th, and March 27th. Obviously, you can go to the website and see everything here. You can bid you can look at all of the, every item by what's most popular, what's first, what's going to be highest and lowest. There are some extraordinary pieces, obviously. And I do appreciate everybody sticking around for this incredibly always a delightful conversation with Chris and Sam. Thanks, gentlemen. This has been a real pleasure as always. It's and always an education. So I do appreciate it. And I'm sure folks will have questions for you. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll do this again shortly. Thanks.